Welcome, beloved, to our virtual services. We're so grateful for your presence with us. We would not be the same without you. My name is Tuli Patel, and I have the honor of being both executive director as well as the lead for the Lifespan Ministry team. As we begin, won't you take a minute to share this video that you're watching on your favorite social media platform? Maybe some of you are on TikTok and can share it there as well. Let's let our beacon shine as it is meant to. This morning, I am so delighted to be here with Ellie Muska, a longtime Beacon member whose kids were raised in our programs at Beacon, as well as Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner. So Ellie, tell me a little bit more. You're a member of the Racial Justice Team and Task Force. What does this group of people do, and why does it have special meaning for you?
Well, it has special meaning for me because it's really changed how I live and see the world. It's been a remarkable experience for me, and we do quite a few activities. Two examples are that we partner with Faith in New Jersey and have engaged in community grassroots activism with them, and then we have some members who are on the Summit Police Task Force, where they're working on advocating for the health and safety of all Summit residents, including people of color.
That's great. Ellie, thank you so much. What an inspiring way to begin a Sunday morning. And today's plate collection will go 100% to Faith in New Jersey, and you'll be hearing more about it and learning more about it during the offering when you'll get to meet their executive director, who also happens to be a Beacon member, Charlene Walker. For now, I invite you all to take a deep breath, settle yourselves in for this hour devoted to our spiritual inner lives, as Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner leads us in our call to worship.
Thank you, Dr. Tuli, and thank you, Ellie. Welcome, wanderers and worshipers. Welcome those whose hearts are longing for meaning, for insight, for companionship. Welcome to the unsure, the not ready, the prove it to me's. Welcome to the diving in, totally committed, decades or lifetimes, lives in the path of holy curiosity and Unitarian Universalism. Welcome to the first starts and even the accidental clicks. Welcome to you, beloved, who hear these words by no accident, but by intention, to be basked in, held by, and deliverers of this birthright, this love. Come now, you lovers of life, that we could shine together in this beacon.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, 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 whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, ours is no caravan of despair. Come, yet again come, yet again come, yet again come.
We light this chalice for the light of truth, the warmth of love, and the fire of commitment. We light the symbol of our faith as we gather together.
It is very rare for a single individual to get credit for a major technological advance. Scientific and technological inventions are almost always the product of a group of curious people coming together to try to solve a problem in some new and untried way. It's very Unitarian Universalist. Lewis Latimer was part of such a team not once, but for most of his adult life. He was an African-American draftsman and inventor, a Unitarian Universalist, and a key figure behind the creation of two of the most world-changing inventions of the 19th century, the telephone and the light bulb. Yet when people think of either of these inventions, the name Lewis Latimer doesn't often come to mind, even though his contributions to both of these trademarked inventions helped make them household staples. Could you imagine living in a world without light bulbs? Without a telephone? Becoming one of the key figures in the U.S. Industrial Revolution was a very big risk for Lewis Latimer, the son of two escaped slaves. Having the courage to take risks is something necessary to being Black and a dreamer in the early history of the United States, something he learned from his parents. At 16, Latimer risked joining the Navy, after lying about his age, to fight for the Union in the Civil War. After surviving the war, Latimer landed a job as an office boy with a patent law firm. The job changed his world. Latimer eagerly studied the draftsmen who turned clients' sketches into drawings for their patent claims. He bought his own tools and practiced at night. He persisted, and after 11 years at the firm, he became the head draftsman, even though he was paid less than the white draftsmen that worked under him. That's where Alexander Graham Bell, a teacher of deaf students, found Latimer and asked him to help him apply for a patent. Bell knew that others were also working on a device to transmit the human voice over electrical wires, and he was in a race to secure a patent. Bell and Latimer, just a year apart in age, worked furiously on Bell's application after hours from their jobs. Just 4 hours after the patent was approved, another inventor submitted his own plans. That's how competitive it was. Latimer's most significant contribution was making the light bulb practical and affordable. In 1879, Thomas Edison, the country's most prolific inventor, received the U.S. patent for his light bulb. Others had tried to perfect the light bulb, and they had failed. It just wasn't possible, they said. But Edison and his team of investors and inventors worked hard to create the paper filament for his bulb. Latimer and Edison worked hard on the U.S. patent application and got it completed before any other team of inventors could. Thomas Edison is given credit for inventing the light bulb, even though it was a team of people who did the inventing. Even after Edison's 1880 patent, Lewis Latimer had continued working on hundreds of his own experiments to make the light bulb better. In the same year, Latimer developed long-lasting and inexpensive carbon filaments that became the standard for the Edison bulb. He also improved almost every component and step in light bulb production, and because he was the expert on the light bulb, he later oversaw installation of public lighting systems in New York, Philadelphia, Montreal, and London on behalf of the Edison Company. In 1918, he was the only African American selected as one of the 28 charter members of Edison's Pioneers, a prestigious industry group of thinkers and inventors. Latimer's creativity extended far beyond electricity. Among inventions he patented himself were a forerunner of the air conditioner and a locking coat rack. He played the flute and the violin. He wrote a book of poetry and a play that was produced in New York City. He helped found the Unitarian Church in Queens, New York, a mostly white borough in the 1900s, where he built a home and raised a family. Lewis Latimer took many risks throughout his life, and they helped make his and our world a little bit brighter. Will you help me remember this lesson from Lewis Latimer? Even if you're not sure you can succeed, even after hundreds of attempts, the reward of reaching your goals, making the world more just and equitable for all people, taking care of the environment, reaching your full potential as a human being, are all worth the risk.
Each Sunday at Beacon, we invite you to light a candle of sorrow or joy, grief or celebration. Maybe you are lighting a candle for healing as we suffer from our country's ongoing pandemics. Perhaps you're kindling a light of gratitude for the many blessings in our lives. We welcome you to light a candle in your home. If you're thinking of a particular person, we hope that you'll lift up their name in the chat. As we begin the kindling of lights, we draw attention to the hundreds of thousands who have died from COVID-19, to the impact within our Beacon community and across the world. To date, 2,488,895 people have died globally from COVID-19. We hold a moment of silence for these lives. We also light our candle of witness for Angelo A.J. Crooms, born in Cocoa, Florida on May 15, 2004. He was a sophomore at Cocoa High School and played football. He was 16 years old. His mother, Sasha Strachan, described him as a loving and caring child. She said, "He leaves behind 8 amazing siblings whom he loved dearly." His father, Eric Smith, said he was a good kid who liked football and was trying to figure out what he wanted to do in life. He added, "We're looking for answers. We're looking for justice." AJ and his friend Sincere Pierce died on November 13th, 2020, during a traffic encounter with law enforcement. May this ritual of kindling light together offer us solace and shared meaning in our lives.
Gracious Spirit of life and wholeness, Goddess, God, holy spark, connection amongst all creation. We live with insufficient words to capture the bewildering beauty of being human. We hold tenderly in these moments to the truth that it is not the perfect splendor of a tidy and pristine life that shines, but rather it is through the cracks, the imperfections, that the light breaks forth. And so may we, with an ease of spirit, offer ourselves compassion for the errors, mistakes, even failures. Here, gracious Spirit of life and wholeness, help us hold one another in this same compassion. Reaching out with a healing balm, release us from demanding perfection from any of our siblings. May contempt be far from our beings, and in its place, gift us a playfulness for the creative, a wisdom to bless the failures. Gracious Spirit, may we know our own light through these imperfections and the beauty in each beloved. With gratitude for the day we have been given, may we live anew in this life together, led by that ancient and ever-changing love, our source, and we pray, our final return.
Hello, my name is Charlene Walker, and I'm the Executive Director of Faith in New Jersey. Faith in New Jersey is the largest faith-based grassroots organizing entity within the state. We organize people of faith for racial, economic, and immigrant justice. This last year, we have been super busy. Our leaders reached into their neighborhoods and congregations to connect undocumented loved ones, returning citizens, and those that were facing economic hardship to funds through generous donors, distributing almost $1.5 million worth of aid. We distributed PPE in the hardest hit Black and Brown communities and met with decision makers on the state, local, and federal level. We successfully increased testing in Black and Brown communities that were originally neglected and made sure that we moved $600 million from the HEROES Act that was dedicated towards policing to slow the spread of COVID within our prisons and to increase funding to support domestic violence survivors. I believe that right now we are in this amazing window of opportunity. Well, if we get this moment right, we won't go back to what was before us, for it has failed us. Instead, we will actually build the beloved community. We will do this through a bold platform that believes in radical love that we will put into action, centering liberation, healing, and building power of those that are closest to hurt. Our racial justice Live Free work this year will center demanding funding for urban gun violence programs that are proven to work. We will build a Live Free coalition of youth organizers across the state fighting for racial justice. We will also build a street certified coalition of formerly incarcerated loved ones so they can design an organizing trajectory from their lived experience and imagination that dismantles this carceral state. We'll include making sure that we continue to fight for protecting our democracy, and that we will continue our immigrant justice work, as well as expanding access to healthcare to cover all kids, because Black and Brown children, about 80,000 of them are left out. I hope that today you can give a generous donation to help us to continue to support our work. And I hope that you'll join us along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason Jackson. My goodness, what a way to begin this day. The sun is not quite shining where I am in Summit, New Jersey, but I think some light just broke through, beloved. I hope you can feel that light that was our offertory and is the incomparable Jason Jackson. Some of you may know the great theologian Kenny Rogers, who famously crooned in The Gambler, a song penned by Don Schlitz. You've got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money when you're sitting at the table. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done. Now, I am not a gambler, not by personality or by talent. In fact, the one time I gambled, I won $20 on a $1 slot machine, and I took the money. And my friend who was with me said, "What are you doing? You have to play again." "No," I said. "I just won $20 off a $1 slot machine. Let's go get dinner." I was the kid in school who took painstakingly calculated risks. I would even ask to see the syllabus of any honors class or AP course before signing up. I was in the guidance counselor's office once a week in my senior year to receive the latest calculations to see where I ranked toward becoming valedictorian. I still remember my first B in calculus in college when I concluded that it meant I could never pursue a career in math or science. I spent a lot of time making calculations and risking what could likely be predicted as a win. It was more than a high achiever's perfectionism. And certainly part of it was socialized. I definitely grew up in a risk-adverse culture with a risk-adverse parent. Attorney and founder of Girls Who Code, Reshma Sanjani, wisely notes, "Many women I talk to tell me that they gravitate towards careers and professions that they know they're going to be great in, that they know they're going to be perfect in, And it's no wonder why. Most girls are taught to avoid risk and failure. We're taught to smile pretty, play it safe, get all A's. Certainly this was true of me, but there were other reasons I feared failure. A pandemic is admittedly a terrible time to preach on the virtue of risk, but fortunately, this is not that. Not a risk-positive sermon that ignores the power differentials and depressions and family histories inherent in risk-taking, but rather this is about failure, loss, mistakes, and grief. Now that some of you have fled for lighter content this morning, let's proceed. There's a parable often attributed to Buddhism, sometimes Zen Buddhism, that speaks of two monks who have taken certain vows. Among them include a vow never to touch women. They are on a long journey when they come to a river, and they realize the only way to continue their journey is to go through the river. As they get closer to the bank, they see a woman, and she is crying. She's crying because the current of the river is very strong, and she fears that she cannot make it across alone. The older monk approaches the woman, and after speaking with her for a moment, gets into the water and motions for her to climb onto his back. The younger monk follows suit, and they cross the river together. The older monk placing the woman at the bank once they are safely ashore. And the two monks continue on their journey. After about a mile or so of hiking, the younger monk looks at the older one and says, "How could you do that? How could you carry a woman when we have taken vows not to touch women?" The older monk smiles. "Well, it appears, my friend, whereas I have placed her down at the bank miles ago, you still are carrying her." For me, my early life included a lot of pain, and I longed to know who my biological mother was for all the reasons you could predict with one who has struggled. My story is but one of many of the ways that adoption and biology can interact, and I acknowledge that family, beloved, is way more complicated than a paragraph in a sermon. But here's what matters for our purposes today. It wasn't until I found out who my biological mother is 3 weeks before we went into total lockdown, and several months later when I discovered she was a whole, complex, and good person. It wasn't until then that I could consider taking risks I had never imagined. You see, I didn't realize how my life was constricted by this unknown, and my ability to literally risk was limited by this weight and fear I carried around that I had no idea was impacting me in such a profound way in every aspect of my life. Recently, I realized this in the smallest of ways. It sounds silly, but some of you know I have been a practitioner of yoga for decades now, and suddenly I'm feeling a little older than when I started this sermon. And across those decades, I have never been able to do a headstand, not because I lacked the physical ability to do so, but because fear would catch me every time I started to lift those feet off the ground. I did a headstand in one of my practices recently, almost without thinking about it, for the first time in 20 plus years of practicing. Something seemed possible that had been impossible. I never each week would complete a set of emails or even explore writing a book because I wasn't sure I wouldn't fail, and failure seemed an impossible weight with what I was already carrying. Perhaps there is something you metaphorically carry that you didn't realize you were even carrying. And this changes not only how you take risks, but more than that, how you encounter failure, mistakes, or gambles that don't work out quite right. It's never as easy as putting them down at the shore or simply reciting a blessing of compassion for yourself, is it? But truly this morning, I tell you, living is a risk. In the words of the poet Lucille Clifton in Won't You Celebrate With Me? Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model, born in Babylon, both non-white and woman. What did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight, my other hand. Come, celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. Living, beloved, is a risk, more so for some of us than others. Loving in the midst of living is a risk. Risk is not only about the things we choose, but what the world delivers to us and what we craft between the starshine and clay, to quote the poet Clifton. It is what we do with our heaped up hearts in the massive wakes of failures, loss, and even the most common of mistakes with terrific impacts. And it is impossible to be human, to be alive, and to love without loss. Phoebe Ang, author of Warrior Lessons, reminds us, the day comes when remaining the same becomes more painful than the risk to grow. And when that happens, there are many goodbyes. We leave old patterns, old friends, old lovers, old ideas, and some cherished beliefs. Loss and growth, she concludes, are so often one and the same. As I ready to set out across the country with twin 6-year-olds post-vaccine and with social distancing in order to meet my biological mother going from one coast to the next, for the first time in 37 years, I am thinking often of risk, of failure, mistakes, and loss. I'm thinking of her risks as she tells her family, including her children, of me. And the bridge from here to there feels massive and uncertain. And some days I feel a bit like the woman at the shore, and other days, even though I've laid my burden down, I wonder if I can trust the back of a stranger, or I act as if I'm still carrying the weight. Questioning if I can journey with these two small children to meet the reason I exist at all. We are approaching the emergence from our social isolation and distancing. We come through these waters with heavy loads, with grief, losses, guilt, or survival for some. Mistakes with terrible consequences. How do we make the journey? with our losses, with what cannot be, with what was and is all around us, and with the journey itself seeming to be unending. Perhaps this is the threshold we return to again and again, crossing the turbulent waters, challenged in each bit of the journey beyond the shore, to leave there what cannot come with us in the after. With the wisdom to not journey alone and the courage to risk telling one another, "You've carried her long enough, beloved." Come, let us lay down at the shore what cannot make the journey ahead. How will we make the journey? Not alone, I know that. And with truth, I know that. And by a love that we do not choose, but who has already chosen us, if we can believe it so. A constant awakening to the love within and around us, the wise monk always journeying beside us. May we know the companionship of this great love in the bridge between starshine and clay. Amen. Ashe, beloved. Blessed may you be.
Isten lelke, jöjj el hozzánk, áld meg szívünk minden őszinte nagy álmát. Jöjj a széllel a tengerben, vezesd lelkünk az örök igazság útján. Szárnyakat kapsz, szabad leszel, Isten lelke, jöjj hozzánk, jöjj hozzánk.
And so, beloved, with a message in our heart and a song humming through our minds, we offer this blessing in closing. A blessing for all of us who call ourselves losers, risk takers, or failures far and wide. A blessing from our own Reverend Dr. Robin Tanner. Blessed are they who fall in the mud, who jump with gusto and rip the pants, who skin the elbows and bruise the ego, for they shall know the sweetness of risk. Blessed are they who make giant mistakes, whose intentions are good, but impact has injured, who know the hot sense of regret and ask for mercy, for their hearts will know the gift of forgiveness. Blessed are they who have seen a D or an F or C or any letter less than perfect, who are painfully familiar with the red pen and labels as less than, for they know the wisdom in the imperfect. Blessed are they who try again, who dust off, who wash up, who extend the wish for peace, who return to sites of failure, who are dogged in their pursuit, for they will discover the secret of dreams. Blessed are they who refuse to listen to naysayers, for their hearts will be houses of hope. Blessed are they who see beyond the surface of another, for they will be able to delight in the gift of compassion. Blessed are they who stop running the race to help a fellow traveler, who pick up the fallen, who stop for injured life, for they shall know the kindness of strangers. Blessed are they who wildly, boldly abandon winning, for they shall know the path of justice. Blessings, beloved, blessings upon you and the risks that you take this week. Blessings upon your failures. Amen. Ashe, and blessed be.